You understand? You're someone who's not afraid to let go and fall. It's like meeting someone I can actually relate to. You wouldn't know what that feels like.
Ever since Muzan took his first breath on the franchise, a sudden change in the story grew intriguing for the fans. Despite this demon, cold, psychotic, isolated, and nihilistic tendencies, he will always be human for the rest of his life. What makes Muzan a compelling antagonist to the protagonist of Demon Slayer is that he is a prime example of what Tanjiro shouldn't be. Due to keeping a bit of his insanity while not showing his colors, the crowd of people adding the substance to his minimal introduction to the story, this was established that the complete philosophy of nature versus nurture in family and the relationship of the characters were tested. Tanjiro looked at the situation critically and how he can't save that family from Muzan's wrath. Muzan rejects his humanity out in public for a brief second when meeting Tanjiro and goes back into acting human to be normal and collected of the situation. Since he wants to hide the mask of his own ego and action, he was maintaining his behavior. Muzan is self-aware of his own actions and was testing Tanjiro's choice on calming the human who became a demon, allowing time for the protagonist and then the antagonist to escape while acting like a human in society, isolated the very aspects of his humanity and feelings. Even when he is in an isolated area and where he acts human to keep his insanity and lets one guy off with a warning, the drunk man gives into his pride and challenges the demon. Muzan slaughters all three of them without trying and shows his hatred for humanity and the concept of feelings. This adds a lot of more personal believability to Tanjiro's dynamic conflict and his character arc. Inside of Muzan's secret temple in the anime and manga, it is here where the antagonist explores his hatred with humanity with the lower ranked demons. Once Muzan summoned them to his hideout, he extremely disappointed with the demons not doing their job. Muzan asked them the question on their determination each time one of the demons explores their fear and feelings towards the leader. Female Muzan represents a more stricter and intense version of the character, where he wears a woman's kimono expressing his femininity and colors of black representing his devoid of humanity. Muzan in the moment acts like a strict, disciplined, motherly figure. Usually Muzan views his lower ranked demons like children he never wanted but wasted their potential and chance to become more to him. Muzan's self-regulation towards his demon or kin. Muzan gave them the blood of the demon 100 years ago to reject their own humanity and work for him to please his desires and wishes. Muzan, every time a demon cries or show an ounce of feelings and emotion, he will enact a brutal but deadly execution on his children, not for the pleasure of it, not for the being evil, but the disappointment of how his followers failed to live up to his expectations. He feels displeasure, wrath, and emptiness of his lower demons not meeting his expectation. He said, it goes back to the flaws of being imperfect. In the Demon Slayer series, sibling bonds and family relationships are established and explored. Tanjiro wanted to save Nezuko and preserve her humanity. Inosuke wanted to establish his strong will while knowing what bonds mean to him. And Tamio, who cares for Yoshiro like a son and his well-being and is willing to sacrifice herself as a mother to end Muzan. Those were positive relationships of those characters can be explored into those themes and motivations and substance into the progression of the story. But with Muzan's relationship with the lower rank and upper moon demons, it's a very nurture-based family rejecting those feelings. The rejecting those past sins of being a human, removing the foundation and rejecting the values of their diligence, hope, death, life, and even insanity to become an inhuman. Muzan represents a fundamental factor into Kimetsu no Yaiba's main narrative of the fear of death and naturalism. Every moment we see Tanjiro battle each demon he faces, they represent an aspect of despair or rejection from the world's fate and bad day. Muzan can be considered a cause and effect for the very notion of death and chaos itself. Kibutsuji is considered a coward by Tamayo due to his very idea of death. Muzan's motivation for living and obtaining Nezuko is to stay alive and remove himself from the laws of nature and death. Kibutsuji, while expressing his lost humanity and detachment from nature, has some nostalgic aspects of his life, why he hated being a sickly human. He even expressed how the topic of feelings towards the characters of Domo and the rest of the upper moons. He removed his humanity and removed aspects of what made him human to never change but obtain his own happiness of living. Even during the manga where he cried as a baby is as represented as a shadow of death that can be humanized a bit more in detail. Before someone tried to burn his corpse, he cried to show his feelings. Kibutsuji isn't written to be a tragic character at all or someone not to ignore. He is very irredeemable and can be classified as a natural cause that was born human and sickly. Once he killed the doctor that tried to heal him, he rejected his own humanity and sanity to become a demon. Even when he is talking to the upper moons in the manga about his aspects of human emotions and humanity, keep this in mind that Muzan doesn't like the very idea of change itself. Each demon he made or accepted was to remove the laws of nature, dragging more and more people into becoming a demon, not because he wasn't generous or nice, but he hates the idea of change itself. Muzan doesn't want to change a single aspect about him or his needs. His very goal is to conquer the sun and daylight itself. Muzan wants to remove his limitations to sustain his new form and embrace the sunlight itself to become a perfect being, to defy the laws of nature itself, to remove the restraints, to defy the very law of nature and remain on top, to ignore the laws of God itself and the world to become complete, to allow the new generation of demon slayers, his children, if you will, to accept the very notion of death of the world and strive against an unstoppable force. That change was Muzan's greatest fear and biggest downfall. Even when he was on the verge of death, reliving his past and cried, understanding how flawed he is, he tried to share his hatred, greed, fears, powers, hope, envy, wrath, feelings to Tanjiro Komaito. Muzan tried to despair Tanjiro and break his outlook on life. Muzan for the first time shared his hatred and rage with that boy. He even tried giving him immortality. Tanjiro rejected the very idea of Muzan's wishes to leave him in a dead world of nothingness. Muzan at the end of the day plummeted to death and turned into the deep, dark void of nothingness. Even before Kibutsuji Muzan met his end in the final chapters, he was still an antagonist that I enjoyed breaking down and exploring. And when I see some other YouTubers make videos on Demon Slayer, they don't care for the actual narrative substance and will appeal to hype and just to obtain clout and create false things in the narrative. This video was made more of a dissection or thesis on the antagonist's motivation and purpose to the story. My audience have a better understanding of his motivation and character and how his character played out. If you enjoyed these videos, I hope you subscribe to the channel to watch more of my analysis videos, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.